super relaxing in here. It's great. I mean, I come here to reconnect, stay in the present, pull out my favorite V&A book, and dream. I love to surround myself with objects, for they inspire. Just the energy they bring with them, but my relationship to them, where I found them, the excitement of the unknown, that one key in a door that opens the door and opens another door and another door, the hunt, if you like. They create a dialogue and they stir emotions. And when those emotions are stirred, I'm able to create. I'm John Galliano, and today I'm really happy to share with you some of my objects of affection, objects I've collected through the years, whether it be traveling historically or geographically. Come on, Japes. Hello. Here we are in a room that used to be a monastery, which is where the monks lived in the 1700s. And I would like to share with you this collage that I produced. I was very lucky to meet a fabulous lady called Madame Chirac. That's Gypsy, she has a cold, excuse us. She was running the museum in Auvergne, Museum of Aubusson, and I was fascinated with the tapestries. And it was there that I was introduced to these pieces of art, really, called cartoons. Cartoons are the first expression, if you like, that the artist would make in gouache paints. Sometimes you'll find borders or panoramics, landscapes, and I've kind of cut them up and put them together to create this collage. And I love the idea, the trompe-l'oeil effect, if you like, of the real trees swaying and refracting in their light, and then this image in front of it. I was playing with the idea of outside in, the inside out. And it works, it's super relaxing in here, it's great. I mean, I come here to reconnect, stay in the present, pull out my favorite V&A book, and dream. I would love to introduce you to my favorite house guest. She's in a really good mood today, so we're all super happy because yesterday, her favorite hat was sent to Paris and it was biked over this morning, so she's super thrilled. And I'd love to introduce you to Auntie. Auntie is an artist model. Auntie is 110 years old. My sternest critic, does all the fittings with me. I found her in Montmartre, and I kind of like to imagine that maybe she struck a pose and inspired some of those younger artists who would have frequented that area. This is Auntie. Well, these are called Sudare, 1750s, I think, from a Japanese monastery. The best fun was choosing the accessories. Some of them are even trimmed with gold lame ribbons from Coco Chanel. I was very lucky to meet a fabulous lady called Lilou Marcon, and she invited me to have tea with her. At that first tea, the most wonderful thing happened. I don't know if something fell out of her pocket or it was already on the floor. I really can't remember. And she picked it up and it was like a little cochon, a little pig, and she offered it to me. And while offering it to me, she informed me that it had been given to her by Coco. So along the walls, you'll see a collection of paintings, drawings, aquarelles, photographs that mean a lot to me. That mean a lot to me because they stir emotion. And when emotions are stirred, I can start to create. And over here, you'll see a fantastic black and white picture by Mr. Penn, Irving Penn, who I had the greatest pleasure and honor to meet and to work with. Often when I've been stuck on complicated dresses and things, I just, come on, John, you've got to work this out. You've got to get this one out because Mr. Penn's going to photograph it. And somehow his energy penetrates me in the creative process, and I always finish the dress. So I like to have the spirit of Mr. Penn in the room. I always try to work out the light and how did he do this and how was that and this shape. And then when I saw the way he worked and that it was with God's light, with the real light, and that he would paint like a watercolor and around you, it's really special. I mean, there's good energy. This is a wonderful fashion illustration by a gentleman called Howard Tangney. Howard is now retired, but up until not so long ago, he was still the life drawing, the fashion illustrating tutor at St. Martin's School of Art. I spent a lot of time with Howard. You know, you feel him breathing down your shoulder and neck. My drawings were quite labored to begin with, as they often are. So he would give me a lot of tests, if you like. Okay, John, we've got 60 seconds here. I want you to get the spine done, map out the head and the hip, and speed drawing. I didn't really understand what was going on, but it was training the retina to stay on the subject and never look down at the paper. And it was Howard who was really kind of building me up to become a fashion illustrator. I'd love to invite you into the Salon Jaune. That room has a wonderful energy, and this is a fantastic yellow inspired from Pipi de Vache. So they would feed the cows mangoes. We got a nickname for the Salon Jaune, and that's Madame Le Pigeon's Salon. Like with a lot of my collections, I created a narrative. I wanted to produce some lumiere and also something that looked like it had been here when we moved in. It hadn't. I worked with a fantastic artist called Eloise d'Argent. I told her my fantasy, if you like, and obsession with the 1700s and the idea to create this artwork. She had to find a place that would be able to cook these tiles. We had to find an oven that would take on the number of tiles required so that it would all match. It was quite a number to produce, but I think you'll agree, it looks like it's been here forever. That gives me great, great joy to contemplate and lose myself in the story. The young boy watering his potager and offering flowers to the lady of the manor. I would love to introduce you to one of my favorite images ever. It's an image by Brassai, and it's of Madame de Bijou. Madame de Bijou has inspired many a collection. I still lose myself in this image. Volume of the coat, the hat, the voile, the jewels, the fallen stockings, the tap dancing shoes. I mean, it's just an endless dialogue with Madame de Bijou. She's amazing. I'm so happy to have shared these things with you. I guess what one could learn from this is how much objects of affection mean to me, and how, through the dialogue I create and how I juxtapose certain things, they stir emotion. It's a magical place to be. Thank you.
Yes, you're right.
Yes.
You know both.
Vogue, it's Kim. We are 2 days out from the Met, and we're doing a trial day. This is actually the first time I've ever done this, where I've tested hair and makeup looks before the actual event. Isn't that what people do when they test their wedding makeup? Never done that either. This is the world famous Mario Dedivanovic, Makeup by Mario, and Chris Appleton. I only have hot guys do my glam. Oh, stop.
Middle-aged men.
Hey, Mom. I didn't even see you there. What are you doing? What's going on? Of course you'd pop up in my Vogue video.
Yeah, well, you know.
This year for the Met, I am wearing a custom John Galliano Margiela couture gown. So many amazing looks from every house that John has been with has been on my mood board for years. The second Margiela show I had been to, I was so inspired by it. I mean, I loved that it was corsets and the bodies, and it was like the most theatrical, beautiful story. This has been a partnership, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 years in the making. To put it lightly, that is about 4 or 5 years of me stalking him to try to see if he would ever design a look for me for the Met. It finally just connected, and it was a dream to get to know him, to spend time with him, and
Mind your weight, sorry. I thought we were supposed to do glam.
for me, I would even want to do him so much more justice, because I just know the human being that he is. This year's theme is Sleeping Beauties, Reawakening Fashion. The dress code is the Garden of Time. And when I heard this theme, we kind of just played around with what we thought this meant. And imagining having the best night of your entire life with your most magical person, and you just are in a garden, you've overslept, you wake up after literally the best night of your life, and I'm just like running.
What is the best night of your life?
I'm fantasizing in my head. Running out, my dress is falling off because it was one of those nights, and I just grabbed my boyfriend's sweater to like run off to make it to where I have to be. It's like really the real life me when I go to an event and I have to make it at like home by 6 a.m. to get to carpool. Like real life happens, and you're just, sometimes I'm in my makeup from the night before and it is what it is. But it's like that, where you just like woke up, bedhead. I think we need a little more bedhead because it's a sleeping beauty. Just woke up after the night of my life in this garden, in this secret garden. This is the 11th Met that I've gone to. That's wild. Listen, at my first Met, I was lucky to be invited. I was a +1. Second one, I was invited, and I wore Albert Elbaz for Lanvin. I didn't know it was happening that way, that I would wear a different designer each, Met, but I think it's so cool and magical that way. I definitely have every Met dress saved except for the Marilyn Monroe dress. I actually asked North, what's your favorite dress in my closet if you can take one dress? And she said, I want the Marilyn dress. And I said, of course you do. All right, we're gonna go try on the look for the last time before the Met. Phase 1, corset. This takes about 30 minutes. I'm just kidding. So the part of my garden fantasy is this corset just stayed on the whole time because it makes my boobs look so good in my waist. So everything else came off. I'll feel so snatched, I won't even be able to communicate to you how snatched I feel. One thing about John is he'll think of every last detail. So he'll think of like, if you're standing at the top of the stairs, but the photographers are at the bottom of the stairs and they're getting a glimpse up, and the skirt's made out of metal, and there's like little peekaboo holes within that. He wanted to make sure that I am fully covered in the appropriate places. So I do have a custom Margiela thong. So we're putting on the dress portion. It's really the skirt, but you'll see it's like a dress draping off. I'll show you in a minute. Déshabillé is a state of being undressed. I learned that from Mr. John Galliano himself.
So if that dress was up, it would be all the same texture, but because it's fallen down, we've allowed ourselves to use the reverse of it to evoke the inside of the dress.
Oh, it's freezing through the forest, so I just grabbed my boyfriend's sweater, cardigan, and yep, and it's falling off. This is my shoe. It's clever because if I had a shoe with the heel gets stuck in the metal skirt. And so that was our issue of walking. So I'm going to have to put these on. And to wear these, you're on your tiptoes and you're balancing the whole time, flexing your calf muscles. So that's what I'm gonna have to do, is stand on my tippy toes. But I think ballerinas do it, and they probably have a lot of practice. This is our only practice, but we'll do it. I think we really need the height on this look, so we gotta do what we gotta do. Probably. We should measure. That would be so interesting.
I'm 6'3".
So what am I, 6 feet?
I think you're 6 foot.
So then I can't lean back, and I'm on my toes from here on out.
And we had my briefing, and then John just told me this amazing story. We were going to be under a bridge. He showed me the lighting, and then also showed me all of these incredible characters with such incredible detail. And then John showed me this porcelain doll, and he was like, I'd love to take it to glass skin. So instantly I knew we were going to have to find something completely new and different. I knew we were going to have to take it there.
We've been working on something that we call Margiela's skin for a long time now. One of the inspirations was the China doll. So it's something we've gradually been working towards, but here was the opportunity to really go for it. So I said, let's go for it.
Once you're told you have to do a new skin that has never existed before, you know you have to develop something that is out of this world. We started with the look. The look was kind of more matte, kept trying to add more shine, but it just, to me, it looked like something we'd already seen before. It was all about the designs, the weight. How do you make skin look like porcelain? It was really measured, and how the makeup is applied, and the lightness. And like we said, we couldn't do anything that was clown white. It had to be very subtle.
That took a lot of working out, just from the point of view of timing. So I think to begin with, there was 7 layers, and the effect was just like, wow. You know, when the boys and girls walked in, we were just like blown over.
We went into the Margiela offices, and then we showed the first look with the new glass skin, and everybody was a standing ovation by the whole team.
To come into this Margiela show and see that she had pushed the boundaries even further. She had taken the idea of a filter, which is obviously AI and digital. She'd taken something from the digital realm and brought it into the physical realm. This is something entirely new.
Very soon I realized that, you know, with the undergarments that we were using and the corsetry and the hair and the makeup, that we actually needed a military-style planning to get all my muses ready on time. So I said, you know, can you cut off some of the time pack? Can you bring it down? Can you bring it down? So she went back studiously with her team, and they got it down, and then they got it down again.
In the end, I will say, with the team and myself, they had it down to around half an hour, because we had to be quick. We cannot be late. Really and truly, I would say that the look could take about an hour and a half.
I think when I started, I'd already planned it out upstairs where we normally show, and then it suddenly dawned on us that we'd run out of space to do it indoors. I actually discovered that place on one of my early morning jogs, then inquired if it was possible to do something there, and I was told no, and then got a no again. And then the more I couldn't get it, the more I wanted it. You know how it is, because I just love the address. The idea that we'd invite our guests to this fantastic address and then take them downstairs to this dank kind of underbelly under the bridge with the sound of the river, the ebb and flow, and that muffled sound of cars and people above the bridge. And oh, it was like the audio that I needed for my characters.
Something in my work as an actress is that when I go on set, I want to be in a world, and I'll do whatever I can to create that world. And often I'll need to use my imagination to its fullest to really immerse in that world. But with what John had created, I didn't have to so much do that work.
Oh, it'd be fab to actually have them look like they're coming back from a night out or whatever. There was a bit of a vampire story underneath all that too. They had to get back before midnight.
I did not expect the response to be as big as it was at all. I did not think there would be this tsunami of absolute love.
It was so great to see the whole world become obsessed, trying to make this glass skin. And it was, like I said, it was heartwarming. It was beautiful to see. And at the same time, I was shocked.
The reaction after, I mean, normally I just, you know, I grab my dogs and I'm out and in the car. I was informed that something had gone down. Kids that were dressing up with pillows and dad's coats and doing the Leon walk. And as a designer, you want to inspire the young ones and the young kids. You know, it's amazing to get reviews, but to actually, you know, leave one of these venues, go home, and you see a kid has switched his raincoat back to front, charging down the street, and you think, yeah, I've done something here. That makes me really happy.
But you know what was amazing was that a few of my friends said, Gwen, imagine all those kids being inspired by Galliano show like we were growing up, and the impact that that had on us. Imagine it happening again.
That's how shows used to be, no? You go and you get inspired to do it yourself with whatever you had with you. It would just inspire you. So I think that's a good nerve to hit, I think.
I'm a fan of fashion. I love fashion. As a child, that was my day out, was to go to department stores, look at collections with my mother. And for me to actually live this and see the things I see, I bring that inspiration and my passion into all of my work. And also to see how everyone works together as teams, everybody. It's incredible. It's beyond dreams.
Expect the response.
It was so great to see the whole world become obsessed.
No, I've never experienced a show that goes viral. That's the first time, I think.
First time I met John Galliano, I saw him across the room. I thought, I can't allow this moment to pass.
It was one of those nights I was leaving a club with Kate. All fine, and then this Gwendolyn came out from the bowels of the club. And Alexi was with us, and I was like, who's that? Who's that? And jumped in the cab, disappeared. But never forgot that image.
John's work has been hugely influential to me since I was a teenager. And John was extraordinarily kind and said that he hoped that we would work together one day.
I've been a fan of Gwendolyn's for a long, long time. She didn't know. And I think in one of those banters we were having, I said, you know, we've met before. And she went completely red. She went, oh, I thought you would never, you'd forgotten that. It was quite sweet.
This is the first time I've walked in one of John Galliano's shows. Even saying that feels so bizarre.
She put the time in. She came in for the fittings 3 or 4 times. Trips to London, sous-vêtements, the undergarments, the corset training, and created the dress on her, really.
It's really influenced me more greatly than perhaps I can even convey. Wild imagination, but coupled with real craftsmanship. Those things coming together and creating true artistry.
Well, my research books, I love the way they're all pinned out like little butterflies. You can help yourself, you can flick through and you see there's research on dolls, Van Dongen as well, you know, some of the makeup ideas that we played with, the colors. Over here, it's like a cabinet de curiosité. So we have the tulip corset, the Ethel corset, the cincha, and these are for boys and girls. Happy to discuss some of the newness, if you like, or some of the new techniques and retrograding. The idea that you could almost treat the subject wearing the dress like a line drawing. So imagine you start with just a crayon at the top, and that crayon becomes more intense as you get to the waist. Then through color and fabric and a retrograde of techniques, you build up the 3-dimensionality of that dress. It was like dégradé. So dégradé of line, dégradé of technique, dégradé of textures.
When I saw the collection, I saw quite how beautiful it was. Innovation with the fabrics, narrative, the storytelling, the emotion. When I saw all of those things, it connected back to what his work has brought me.
At that level of dressmaking, which is the highest form of dressmaking, just once a year, because of the time it involves. Structures, the substructures, you know, all the engineering, especially building a dress on a redefined body shape. That's what I wanted to do. It was inspired by many references.
I looked at the Brassai photographs. That's what he talked about. And I knew those photographs very well because I've been quite obsessed with them when I was around 20. I used to stare at those photographs and think about who the people were and what the stories were, what had been happening.
Once we had redefined the body shape, it was only then that I could start to build the dress. I'd already started to work with curvier girls on couture private orders. I wanted to do that more, so I embraced it. I absolutely embraced it. The casting was all-inclusive.
I thought the casting was spectacular. I thought it was really great because we saw so many different types of people. What was incredibly modern about the show was that it was exploring a totally different silhouette from one we're used to seeing.
The different morphology, it was just so exciting and so challenging. Everything was, you know, you had to find an answer, you had to work it out.
I am extremely tall and I'm certainly not sample size. And I thought it was beautifully radical for John to amplify and intensify my size and my proportions and change them and really be extreme about what I am and who I am. Well, Pat McGrath is also a genius. I know that can be an overused phrase, but it's used rightfully so with Pat. We became friends because she found me in a nightclub years ago, and I was wearing a look of hers, and she said, I love your makeup, I want to take a photograph of you. At that time, I didn't know what Pat McGrath looked like, so just this woman had taken a photograph of me, we talked about makeup, and afterwards someone said that was Pat McGrath, and I went, no, I really missed out on a huge moment.
Well, I remember it was early January.
I was thinking of that kind of Marie Kondo thing of, you know, does it spark joy? And everything sparks joy, which is kind of a disaster in terms of storage solutions and in terms of my financial state. I think my collection is around 300 pieces. Hello Vogue, I'm Alexander Fiore and I'm devoted to collecting the work of John Galliano. I first started collecting John Galliano pieces when I was a teenager. I didn't conceive of it as a collection at that point in time. It was just, I was a kid that was completely besotted with the work that he was creating. I can remember the first time I saw a John Galliano dress. It was in a magazine. It was a magazine that my mother owned. It was a picture of Carla Bruni. She's wearing a long black and white dress with a coat, and she was stood on the rooftops of a building, and it was snowing. And this just didn't look like anything else that I'd ever seen before. I wanted to know more about it, and that was really sort of the gateway for my fascination with fashion. Welcome to my archive room. This is where I keep the majority of my Galliano collection, and I would estimate there's around 200 to 300 pieces in here. Okay, so I'm going to put on white cotton curator's gloves, which seem a bit deranged, out of context, but it's to protect everything from acids from my hands, and also honestly because I have white things and I have a propensity to get dirt on any spot of white in any garment feasible. So that's why I wear these. The difficulty in finding anything in here is that there is no system, there is no logic to the way that I store all of these things. It's very kind of impulsive, and I often get distracted by finding things that are amazing that I forgot I had. Right, okay. But then, you know, when you do find the thing you've been searching for, it's like finding kind of hidden treasure. So this is from John Galliano's Autumn-Winter 2000 collection for Christian Dior, Fly Girls, which is a favorite of mine. It's entirely sequined, silk, tie-dye to look like denim, and it's just an extraordinary piece. It's another of those pieces where you can't quite believe it was physically made, but I'm very lucky that it ended up with me. I would say the collection has completely outgrown my home, and what I need to do is be less covetous and less focused on having it within arm's reach. I have this issue with quite clothing specific separation anxiety. The pieces I collect are women's wear, and they're quite extreme women's wear. They're not kind of polite coats with a little bit of a bust dart. You know, they're ball gowns, they're bias cut evening dresses, they're skirt suits in sort of shocking pink. These aren't pieces that I'm buying to wear. It's absolutely an obsession. I don't think obsessions are necessarily bad things. I always think I could be doing much worse things with my time and with my money than this. And I do think it's about caring for things, and that it's weird when you talk about kind of inanimate objects, but you know, clothes are delicate things. They can be destroyed by so many means. You can leave them and they can be eaten by moths, they can get wet, they can get stained, they can be mistreated, they can be torn. They need to be kind of cared for and cherished. These are one of the first Galliano pieces I ever bought myself. They're Dior logo rings from Autumn-Winter 2000. I spent pretty much all of my money on when I was a besotted 16-year-old. A lot of people have kind of asked me about where this passion comes from, why I feel such kind of love for what John Galliano does, and increasingly I've come to the realization that it's the same as teenage boys being besotted with a particular musician, or guys who are incredibly passionate about a football team or a soccer team. You know, for me, my sport is fashion, and my team is Galliano. I made the right decision in buying them because now they're ferociously difficult to get hold of. So I'm very happy I got these. It is this kind of, you know, teenage obsession, this sort of nose to the glass, wanting to be part of this world, idolizing somebody, falling in love with everything they're creating. I also think kind of for a kid who was different, growing up in the north of England, in the middle of the countryside, where you had to special order Vogue to be able to get it at the kind of local corner shop. It was amazing that there was this kind of dream of this other world. There was this dream of, I don't want to say something better, but certainly something different. When I discovered Galliano's work, it was like, oh, these are people that kind of, you know, they get what I'm about. This is a note from John. He does know that I am an admirer and that I collect his work. He actually knows firsthand, because one of, I would say, The earliest pieces I collected was, and certainly one of the most important pieces I have, is a coat from Autumn Winter 1996. It's actually a coat that John wore for a portrait by Paolo Reversi taken that year, and it was in the show, and I bought it on eBay. There was a fierce bidding war between me and one other bidder until about kind of 3 in the morning, and I was the person that finally won it. And I subsequently found out that the other bidder on the item was John, which he told me himself. I don't know if he thought I was going to give him the coat, but I'm not going to give him the coat. So this is the coat. It's really extraordinary. I think he's the greatest fashion designer in the world, and I think these are the greatest clothes in the world. Every piece has a story. Every piece has been hunted out somewhere. There's kind of a voyage of discovery to find everything, and it's very rare you buy one outfit from the same people. You know, I have a newsprint jacket that fastens with safety pins. I bought the newspaper jacket from one person, and I bought each of the safety pins from 2 other people. So, as well as collecting Galliano clothes, I'm lucky enough that I've been able to collect a bunch of his invitations from the 1990s. And just as Galliano's fashion shows weren't like other fashion shows, his invitations weren't like other invitations. They were all kinds of sort of fantastical objects, and here's just a few of them. This one is quite special. This is from the Spring-Summer 1997 John Galliano show, which is kind of colloquially known as the Circus Collection. It's a Matryoshka doll with a charm bracelet on the inside. Every kind of invite was the sort of first glimpse at the sort of mise-en-scène, at the sort of fantasy he was imagining for each season. So the invite for Spring-Summer 1996 is a ballet slipper with a scroll of music attached. This was a show that took place in the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées in Paris, and famously had Shalom Harlow performing pirouettes at the end. I'm very well aware not everyone can afford these clothes. I couldn't afford these clothes when I was a kid, but I could look at the pictures and I could fall in love with the pictures, and those could make me dream and want to be part of this. And that's why I think fashion is elitist, but it's also incredibly egalitarian, because anyone can look at pictures of these clothes and can fall in love with them and can dream about them. A lot of people ask me what I would save if there was a fire in this room, and the answer is probably this dress here. It's the dress that was worn by Carla Bruni. Not the actual dress, unfortunately, but there were only 5 ever made. You can see here, there's just one seam that holds the entire hem together, and all the fit seams, all the darts, everything is kind of lost into the image of this flower. I think a lot of the times, not just in fashion, but in lots of cases, you know, when you go and visit an amazing monument or you meet your hero, they don't live up to the expectations that you had in your head. And the thing that's, for me, really wonderful about Galliano is everything I've got hold of is even better in real life than I imagined it was going to be. A lot of people ask me what the ultimate goal is, what the kind of aim is. You know, am I going to do an exhibition? Am I going to donate it all to a museum? Am I going to sell it all? As a kind of spurious justification to myself, there is this sense of, oh, well, I bought this for X amount and now it's worth Y amount, and it's incredibly valuable. I've spent a lot of money on it, but it is worth far more than I've spent on it. And obviously to me, it's completely priceless, and I don't think I could ever sell it. And I don't know what the ultimate goal is. That's something that's slightly frightening, as well as sort of exciting. I'm like, well, the ultimate goal is to own everything from every show, but then what do I do with it? Do I restage the show? I often quote the Duchess of Windsor. She once said, the possession of beautiful things is thrilling to me. And I see that in this. It's just this idea of getting something and just being like, wow, isn't this great?